Hey traders, what's happening? Jamie Saettele here. It is the Power Hour with me, FX, some commodities. We'll look at the S&P real quick. It is FOMC day here. Again, Jamie Saettele here with Scandinavian Capital Markets as well as SB Trade Desk. And let's start out here on FOMC day by looking at US dollar. All right, so US dollar, the Dow Jones FXCM dollar index, a little better representation than just the European dominant DXY in my opinion. And what we're looking at here, FOMC or not, again, we're looking at this from purely a technical basis, at least the way in which I look at markets. And we are looking at key pivots, or what levels could be key pivots. So we have this pitchfork, right, that goes all the way back to that Jan 2017 high. That's where it originates. And you can see this magenta parallel here, right? That has been key support and resistance for over a year. This is all the way back to June of 2020. All right, so essentially, call it the COVID parallel if you want. And you can see here over the last month, basically, we've kind of, really the last 2 months actually, we've been oscillating around the level. So we hit it back here on July 21st, we pulled back, we went through it, we pulled back through it, now we were back above it. So it really hasn't been, we've been oscillating around it again for 2 months. Essentially, we've been in a range here, right? Now this could actually be a triangle, an Elliott triangle in which we'd counted A, B, C, D. We'd look for a pullback in E, and then we'd look for that final burst higher up into this 12,130, 12,160 area, at which point we'd be looking for really significant resistance and possibly an end to that bull run that started back in February when everybody and their mother and their grandmother was looking for the dollar to continue lower. So kind of looking for maybe the opposite psychological profile in the market, if we get up into this level, okay, which may be, over maybe the next couple of months. So with, FOMC today and really the next few days, what I'm paying attention to here is going to be 11,940. All right, so you've got the parallel here. Again, we've gone over that. You've also got the 50-day average. So that 50-day average was resistance here in May and June. We went through it. Let's see if we can provide or watch for support there for US dollar. All right, so that really is where my focus is. If we do pull back here over the next, say, it could be today with FOMC, or it could be, the next few days. But that's where my head's at. Okay. All right. So let's then go to, I want to go to dollar Swedish krona next. And, I say this all the time, but really, dollar Swedish krona tends to be just a great, kind of indicator of general dollar, direction, notably for European FX. So, euro, what have you. But if I'm seeing something in euro, I like to kind of confirm it with dollar SEK. And if something's confusing with me in euro, I'll take a look in dollar SEK and see if it can clarify. So in this situation, I'll get to euro next. But if I'm looking at dollar Swedish krona, to me, this is still an uptrend. All right, we have this pitchfork back to the January low, and you can see just the perfect touches we had on the center line. We did have decent support here on that 25 line. And in fact, we just hit resistance on the 25 line. This is polarity. I wrote about this last night in my update. But, when people think about technical analysis and support resistance, they often, and, rightly so, will start with just looking at horizontal, support resistance levels. So like, a former high which was obviously resistance, may become support. That's polarity, right? Support becomes resistance, resistance becomes support, all that. So the same thing is true with parallels. So that would include things like trend lines, right? You see that happen quite often. And this parallel, for instance, was good support, right? In June, in July, and August. And it just was resistance this week, just 2 days ago on Monday. So that's key. In order for us, obviously, to resume higher, we'd have to get up through this level. But as long as we're holding or trading within this fork, right, we should expect we should expect, or not expect, but we will treat this as an uptrend. Okay, so I want to see support either around 862 or all the way down at this parallel. Okay, now viewing that US dollar chart that we just looked at previous, one would think that it's probably going to be closer down here, just because a decent US dollar pullback to that 11,940 level. Probably not going to see dollar SEK stop right here. So if you're following European FX, keep this in mind. Check this, say, like once a day to see where you are. Okay. All right, Euro. I'm going to go out to a daily here first to highlight the fact that Euro is hovering towards the bottom of its, say, year-long range. In fact, this is September of 2020 down here. That was the September low from last year. So we're pretty close to unchanged over the last, over the last year. And, much similar to US dollars, I was noting the little pullback we're looking for or thinking. Keep this red line here, that former trend line, in mind as I zoom into this hourly or 4-hour chart, because that, if you do get a pop today on FOMC, I would be looking at that 1790 area as a key resistance level or a key level. And maybe, if you spike higher into that, that might actually be a level to potentially fade with a tight stop, if that's your thing, right? So that's a level to pay attention to. Now, the big support, the big test for bulls, right, is probably going to be that 116.12 level or so. All right. And that is simply, that's the September low again from last year. It's also, by the way, the election low. It says Biden's victory right here. So that is that low. It's also a very clear channel. And look how beautiful this channel has played out, by the way. So this is center line, median line trading. You can see we broke below it. We came back, tagged it, resumed lower. Did not quite get here to that lower parallel, but then we came back, and guess what? We tagged it again. It was a perfect tag and a perfect short off of that. One more thing on this chart for educational purposes, of course. This is a little secret that a lot of people don't pay attention to, but this is an example of daily reversal support. Okay, what I mean by that is you take the low day of the move, okay, look for the close of that level, plot a line across it. Whenever you see bold lines on my chart, that's usually what they are, bold horizontal lines. That is where you look for your, what I call support of last resort, or your final support. And indeed, that close is 16,995. The low here was 117.00. Pretty darn close, right? So that is a perfect example of finding daily reversal support in action. All right. Okay. So again, key level 1790, and then big support about 116. Okay. By the way, if we were to get up and burst through that 1790 level, you'd probably change your tune and look for support back near 1790. Okay. So, everything is fluid, right? We're allowed to change our minds. That's okay. Cable. Let's go to a 4-hour chart on British pound. So this is very interesting in the sense that if we were to draw a channel here from that June high, guess where we tagged today? Also an example of daily reversal support, right? You can see that's the low day of the move, right? August 20th. Plot a on the close horizontal line. Guess what? It nailed support today, 36.20. Pretty good. Great example of using this little method, this little trick to identify, call it your hidden support levels if you want, and resistance for that matter. Just do the high day close. Okay, we are tagging the center line, trading around it as I speak. So your natural, when you're reversing off of a center line as we are right now, you'd be looking for a bounce. Actually, we just exited. We were short literally right here on cable. So we were looking for, we just exited this morning our pound short position ahead of FOMC. We may get a bounce. If we do, I'd be looking for resistance probably around 37.30 to 37.50. You can see that is very clearly an important level, especially 37.30. It's a low from July 2nd. You got support here at the end of July, get support here in mid-August, support here end of August, early September, support here in early September. You've also got your 25 line. So the great thing about trading with median lines or center lines, what have you, is the fact that you're always changing with the market action. The market's telling you how to operate. I'm going to give you an example. So my thinking right now, considering that we are reacting at this level, is that we're going to bounce, right? So let's say we bounce. I know where I want to be selling, still in a downtrend, so I do want to sell, okay? So I'm going to sell up there, right? Let's say, however, that I am wrong and that we break down, okay? If we break down, then you want to sell the bounce into that center line, right? So you're always getting levels, whichever way you break, okay, off of this, you're always trading with the trend and into that ideal, resistance. So, people say trade with the trend, blah, blah, blah. I get it. However, in downtrends, you prefer, at least I do, prefer to sell strength. And in uptrends, I prefer to buy weakness rather than, buy strength in uptrends and sell weakness in downtrends. That can work, obviously, but a lot of times you'll get, wiggled out at a bad price because you are going to suffer a reaction buying that, chasing that breakout. I'm not saying it doesn't work and everyone's different. It's just how I operate. On a bigger picture basis, by the way, I do have a longer standing target for cable at about 133. That is 2 legs down from that June high. So in a perfect world, we bounce here, able to sell again, re-short, if you will, back near 37.30, 37.50, and then take it down to 133 at some point. The immediate next level, if we break down, by the way, is going to be 34.80s. That is the high from, guess what? September of 2020. So those are your levels, essentially 37, 30, 50, 34, 80, 33 over the next, I don't know, month or so. Let's see, where are we? Let's go to Aussie next. Not quite sure. Aussie here. I've got a little better handle on Kiwi and dollar CAD actually, as far as commodity FX is concerned. But all I will say here for Aussie dollar is pay attention to 73.15, which I believe is also the monthly opening price. Is it? It is. So here you can see that 73.15 is the monthly opening price for the Australian dollar. It's also close to that 50-day average. You know, so that's really about it. I don't have much else to offer when it comes to Aussie. Aussie's been a bit tricky for me because that low back here on August 20th, on August 20th, to me was kind of in the middle of nowhere. I think I talked about this last week, but your really big zone for Aussie was like 69.90 to 70.50 or so, and that encompasses the low from last November, the low from last September, the high from January of 2020, 38.2 of the entire rally from March 2020. So there's a lot there. I'm kind of thinking that we need to test that before we do anything else. But in the meantime, just be aware of 73.15. To me, that if we are headed lower, that should probably provide resistance. Okay, Kiwi. A couple things here with Kiwi. One, this is a great example of polarity as well, by the way, with center lines. So you can see this parallel was resistance, right? Back in August. It's now providing support. So I am thinking bounce here. We are indeed bouncing a bit today. I'm looking at, say, 70, 80, 70, 90 for Kiwi resistance. If we're, again, headed lower in Kiwi, I would think that provides resistance. We exited a short here, actually, a couple of days ago. What was that, Monday? Yeah, 70.30. So, yeah, think bounce near term on Kiwi. There is, however, the possibility of a big, huge bullish outcome in Kiwi. All right. So if we look at it this way, you could call this a massive base, right? This neckline, which goes off these highs from 2020, right? That was perfect support back here in August. And this is kind of like a big pennant or something, or a wedge. I always get the terms kind of screwed up, but it doesn't really matter. That's what they're called. The implication being that this is a huge uptrend. This is consolidation. We found support where we should have. And, you know, now we're getting ready, kind of like a little 1-2, and a breakout here would present the opportunity to get bullish for a huge rally. All right. So again, that's a possibility to be aware of. In the meantime, just pay attention to that 70, 80, 70, 90 level. Lotus Meditation. Well, hello there, Lotus Meditation. I will answer your question. You're asking about S&P, 100%. Again, if you have a question, specify it rather than just giving me the symbol. You say SPX, please. What is it that you would like to know about S&P? What are you thinking? Do you have, what kind of time frame are you looking at? For example, you know what? Because I could talk a lot about the S&P on very, very different time frames. But if you have something specific, please do ask. Please do specify. All right, let's go to dollar CAD, which is moving here this morning. We've played this great dollar CAD here. My thinking is that we are in a triangle that started back here in July. Okay. The reason for that, hold on, I've got the reason for that is that all of these moves are in 3 waves. So when you see that, sorry for a second, I've got some allergies. Hold on. Apologies for that. I should probably get some tissues up here. All right, so 3 waves down, 3 waves up, 3 waves down, 3 waves up. That is literally the definition of a triangle. Also, wave B is equal to 127.2% of wave A. So here's A, here's B, C. Guess what? Wave C is about 61.8% of wave, wave D, excuse me, is 61.8% of wave B. So alternating legs and triangles oftentimes do relate by 61.8%. So we have all these relationships and all these patterns that scream triangle. If we were to try to guesstimate the end of this drop, which is wave E, we would simply take 61.8% of C, and that is 2614, and that is why I have that blue line right there. If we have a very shallow pullback, which we're getting very close to, then look for support probably around 127, which is just this trend line right here, okay? So that is all we're looking for there. So best guess here, we're probably looking at support around 2616. Something like that, right? Right there. So dollar CAD, an absolutely beautiful picture here. And by the way, what we'd be looking for following support down here is a final burst to the upside, and that would put the finishing touches on the entire rally from June. All right, so we're getting a little ahead of ourselves there. Simply pay attention to, again, 126.90 or so, but probably more like 26.15. All right, let's go to that S&P chart that Lotus was asking about. All right, so this is a 4-hour chart. We are looking at a channel from the May low here, and it's really that simple. So we topped on the channel, okay? We broke down below the channel. So we are pretty much at, we tested it yesterday, pulled back, and now we're almost back to that level again. So all I'm looking for here is another reaction. If we go through this thing, then kind of for me, all bets are off, and I probably wouldn't really be looking at the S&P much until things made sense again. You know, but we did have a nice trade off of this level yesterday. If we tag this and we do come off, the next big level to pay attention to for support is probably 42.20 to 42.30. You can see swing low here from July, good resistance here from April and May. That's also the, if you take the width of this channel and you extend it, you would get that level. That's one way to trade channels, right? So that's your target typically is the width of the channel after you break it, and you look to target that level. So for S&Ps, that's really all I'm looking at. The Nasdaq, this is the Nasdaq futures right here. Your huge level here is probably around 14,550, 14,650. That's just this trend line that goes back to October of last year. Excuse me. It's also the center line of the channel that originates at the September low of last year. In fact, this is exactly, this is exactly a year ago. Okay, and that's a huge test there. All right. Take a look at some metals, which are starting to pick up a bit here. They're getting a nice bounce in cable off of that key level that we identified. Beautiful. Okay, so British pound. We have been pressing against key resistance here for the last 2 days. And I would really probably move it up to this zone, right? Support resistance really are zones. Rarely is it a specific level. But I would pay attention to 1785 here in gold. This is spot gold. And you can see, so I've got the horizontal line here, but the better level probably really is this higher level here. You've got that moving average here. It's a 200 period average on the 4-hour chart. But you've got a number of lows here, right? August 27th, September 8th, 9th, 13th. So you've got a bunch of stuff up here at 1785, excuse me. Also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'd have 5 waves up if we got into that level, get a pullback off of that level. So 1785 could be a level to fade. You know, and typically you have gold and yen move together. Not all the time, but a lot of times. So, you know, coming up into resistance and thinking pullback in gold off of 1785 kind of makes me want to maybe be long yen crosses, right? You know, so if we're going to get a little weaker gold maybe off of 1785, you might get yen crosses to the upside, which brings me to Aussie yen is certainly one of them. Daily chart, right? September 2020 across the chart. Held support here in August. We've pulled back some. Turning up today. You know, Aussie yen looks pretty good. Up to 80.50, maybe up towards 81.20, right? Another one that's interesting is pound yen. Beautiful. Now, pound yen, this is a great setup, probably on both sides, but you can see this is a big channel, a little more like a wedge actually, that we broke this week, and I actually bought a little bit of pound yen here this morning, and I'm looking for nothing more than say 150.50 or so. But you can see we're bouncing off that channel line. And if we were to get up here, say 150.50, I might be looking to short up near 150.80, right? Like that right there. Hold on. Get on there. Okay, there we go. You can see all the nice little pivots there on 150.80, right? So that would be the underside of this trend line, right? That trend line hit a bunch of spots. So like you had, you know, here, December, probably a little more like that, right? All right, so 150.80 or so, maybe 151, ideal for resistance as far as pound yen is concerned. And let's see what the 618 is on this actually. And then I'm going to zoom out. So if I zoom out, you can see the top side of this old line here, this channel line. This is a big head and shoulders, right? Possibly. We haven't broken it yet, haven't confirmed it yet. At this point, it's just a range. But if we were to break beneath that 148.50 level, your target is all the way down near 140, which, by the way, intersects this level here. So obviously, if something like that were to happen, that would be, you know, we're talking 10 big figures. That would be like literally a crash. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just pointing out the possibilities, and the setup is certainly there to, you know, look for resistance up near 151. As it stands right now, you know, you could scalp some on the long side, which is what I'm doing. All right, so here's another example, by the way, of, I mentioned the channel thing before about the width of the channel. So this is half width and more or less identified resistance for pound yen. All right. Okay. Kiwi Yen is also interesting, although I was looking for support a little bit lower. I was looking for support a little closer to 76 in Kiwi Yen, which I guess could still happen. So there's a lot of, options, a lot of possibilities in terms of yen crosses. Frankly, pound yen right now, I think, is a very, very decent vehicle to be trading. Just the levels are great, right? Support, decent ranges, 130 pips till resistance just today or, the next few days, but then I'd be looking to potentially put a short on. All right. Okay, so that is pretty much all I've got for today. Best looking setups right now, following that dollar CAD triangle, cable bounce looking for resistance a little higher, pound yen levels we just went over, gold resistance probably at 1785, and yeah, those are the biggies for me. Okay, so if there are any more questions, please do ask, and if not, then I will wrap this up and go on a little jog before FOMC and come back ready to rock and roll. All right, so it seems like that's probably about it. So thank you for attending very much. I do want to announce, don't forget, Scandinavian Capital Markets, we do offer now 15 pairs, crypto pairs on MT4. And those will be coming to C-Trader as well, but we want to get the rollout done right. So again, 15 pairs right now, including Bitcoin, of course, 15 different crypto pairs available on MT4, and we will have that coming out on C-Trader as well when the time is right. Okay, so don't forget about that. Okie doke. All right, so thank you very much and have a safe rest of your week. All righty, bye.